Ghost in the Night with Phil Sams. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Ghost in the Night, a hauntings and paranormal podcast. I am Phil Sams. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to check out this podcast and visit the YouTube channel. Today's episode is all about Thornhaven Manor in Newcastle, Indiana. If you've listened to the podcast in the past, you've known I was going to go do an investigation there, and last weekend, that is exactly what I did, and I'm going to share my thoughts on that particular investigation in that particular location in this podcast. So let's just jump right into it. I was so looking forward to this investigation. This was the one investigation that I had on the books that I really was looking forward to. I was so excited to go here, investigate, because of all the stuff that has been surrounding this location. You can go to YouTube and find countless videos on all the activity that goes there. Naturally, Ghost Adventures have been there, and we've all seen that episode where they had some great experiences and caught evidence. So I was fired up to go here. This was the one place I really wanted to go because I thought this was the one place that quite possibly could really scare the shit out of me, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to be scared. I wanted to feel that when you can't explain something happens to you and you don't know what it is. That's what I wanted. So I was super psyched to go there, and I went. Now, not to spoil anything or whatever, but I was greatly disappointed with this location. This was a big letdown. I was fully prepared for this podcast when I started thinking about this podcast and how I was going to do it. I was going to shit on this place. But as I thought about it more, I decided, you know what, and talked to some people. I was there with a group and got their opinions of it and what they experienced and everything. So I said, you know what, I'm going to hold off on shitting on the place right now, but I'm leaving it up for discussion at some point. So let's just go ahead and talk about the investigation. Now, I went with my girlfriend. She came with me, so I wasn't planning on spending the entire night there like I normally do. We got there about 8. We're going to stay till 2:30, 3 o'clock. I wanted to make it till about 3 o'clock, but it was about an hour and a half drive, and she wanted to get home. So I knew I wasn't going to be there the entire evening, and I was really in a rush. I really wanted to get as much investigation done as I possibly could in the time frame that I had, because like I said, I was super psyched to be there. This was one place I thought was going to really cement the paranormal for me. So we started doing some investigation. Now, if you've watched any YouTube videos on this, the owner, there's a lot of walkthroughs with the owner. And one particular one caught my attention and made me really want to go to this place. It's an older building or an older home, and the walls are thick. And they even in that video, whoever they're walking around with says that the walls are so thick you don't have a lot of noise contamination. You could be upstairs in a room doing an investigation, doing an EVP session, what have you, and somebody else can be in another part of the home and you won't hear their conversation. Now, first of all, that is complete and total bullshit. I have audio evidence that where I am upstairs and I'm doing an EVP session, asking questions, trying to reach out, trying to make contact, and I can hear the people below me like they're in the same room. And if that is so frustrating, and I knew it was going to be that because I'm going to do some videos of the investigation, and even in those videos and those recordings, you can hear me say, I can hear people right downstairs. So I knew the noise contamination was going to be an issue. And as I continued on through the night, it just continued to piss me off a little bit more. So noise contamination really hurt the investigation as a whole. As I was reviewing the audio recordings, I could hear the other people, and there, on a couple of them, there is something there. I ask a question, and you can hear the people talking, and between them talking, there sounds like, there could be something there, but I can't filter it out because of all the background contamination noise from downstairs. So I'll never know. So the investigation started out that way, and I was getting more and more frustrated as time went on. And this was just a total letdown. And you could tell by my audio recordings and my video recordings that I was getting more and more frustrated, and I knew we weren't going to catch anything. And so that led to me just, saying at 2:00, I'm packing it up and leaving. So, but I did have a few little encounters, or one encounter in the basement. We were doing a session there. I was recording, asking questions as usual. And they were doing some construction. They had some 2x4s framed in for walls and such. And, I asked a question along the lines of, they're doing some construction here. Are you happy with that, or are you upset about that? And we got a bang. Now, what it sounded like was, a pipe bang. Like in the older homes, or an older building, you turn the water on or something, the pressure of the water shooting through the system or whatever will cause it to jar and bang. That's what it sounded like. We tried to debunk it. There was a pipe. I didn't really see a lot of pipes on the floor, looking up. And plus, I don't believe they don't have running water because you can't use the restrooms there. So I'm pretty sure they don't have running water. I did find one pipe that, and I kind of jarred it, and that really wasn't the same sound, but that was one experience. And that was really the only experience that I had. A lot of the stuff, there's a lot of outside noise contamination as well, for the mere fact that it's so close to the road. And I was fully expecting this place to be in the middle of nowhere. Even in Ghost Adventures, they say we're out in the middle of nowhere. No, you're not. There's basically a main road. The town is about not even half a mile up the road, basically. And there's subdivisions all around this place. I passed it 3 times thinking I was in the wrong area because of all the new construction and new homes that are there. They have neighbors that I could probably throw a baseball and hit. And my shoulders are bad. I can't throw a baseball very far. So the chances of noise contamination, even from just everyday outside life, is ramped up. And also you get assholes that drive by because they know the location, the locals. We were out in a barn investigation. I started out in a barn, the very first place I went to. And, it was dark. And we're in the barn, doing another EVP session, shooting some videos, taking some pictures. And as we're kind of turning and walking away, a car pulls up by the driveway, stops, turns out its lights, and starts honking. I mean, come on. You can't investigate like that. I mean, you can, but it makes your job so difficult to filter out the crap from the actual paranormal. So we went back inside and we started doing our investigations, mainly upstairs after, the basement. We had the basement incident, or the basement activity, which really isn't a lot of activity. Wasn't just the one little bang. Upstairs was a complete and total letdown. Now, we had some static cameras up and running, and, on the cameras you can see orbs, but we all know what orbs are. At least 98% of the time, it's dust. It's a bug. Now, there was one orb on there that somebody showed me from one of their recordings that is kind of weird because it's really transparent. It's a very dim orb. It's very big, so that would mean it's closer to the camera, but the camera's in the corner and it's actually in the other room. It basically just passes through the doorway. From the other room you can see it. It comes in one side of the door frame and then goes, just shoots through like it's going down the hall. So the mere size of it is interesting, and because it can't be that close to the camera because of the camera's location and the door's location. So that was interesting, but that was it. Never had a real heavy feeling in this place. Wasn't spooked out at all at any point of my time there. And it just got really frustrating. And I was so let down. I mean, I'm really starting to question. I've always questioned some of these paranormal shows just for its common sense. How can you get that much activity in one night? I'm not going to say which ones. But how you can get that much activity, that many EVPs, that kind of activity in one night, sometimes you have to go to a place 2, 3, 4, 5 times to get that amount of experiences and activity documented. So take it at what you will. I mean, am I saying that these paranormal shows are completely full of shit? No, probably not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it is television, for goodness sakes, and they're driven by ratings and revenue, so they are being pressured to find activity because we are a bunch of sheep and we are idiots, and if we don't get satisfaction from seeing paranormal activity in an episode, we're going to quit watching. They're going to lose money, and they're not going to be on the air anymore. So odds are they're probably blowing it up a little bit more than what they're getting, or they're pushing the boundaries on evidence with whether it's paranormal or whether it's actually has a rational explanation for what occurred. So I'm not ready to throw in the towel on Thornhaven completely yet, but I'm getting close. I want to go back. Maybe I can go back again and try to rekindle my fire for that place, but I don't know. I mean, I know that things might just not wanted to interact with us that night or interact with me that night. I just don't know. I mean, I'm really questioning the whole thing now. If that is one of the most haunted places in America, then guess what? I live in the most haunted place in America. I have 10 times as much activity than that place in my own home. So I'm open to it. So it's not that I'm a skeptic by any stretch of any imagination. I'm open to the paranormal. So why wouldn't they want to interact with me? But I don't know. I mean, it needs further investigation on my part. Now, do I buy all these videos in these ghost paranormal shows that say this is a super, super haunted location? Absolutely not. I mean, there's some kind of activity there, but I just didn't catch it. Now, some other members of the group stayed all night said it was a little bit more active early in the morning, the dawn hours. They got a few good EVPs. One of them, which I heard they played for me, it was Class A. I mean, it was a legitimate response to a statement that was made. So I'm not ruling out the activity at this location 100%. However, I'm very skeptical of all these locations that have been featured on any of the paranormal shows, especially when they charge the amount of money that they charge to investigate there. It's becoming a business, and their income depends on building and pumping up these places as paranormal and activity hotspots. So I question their motivation at this point. I don't think it's one of the most haunted locations in America. I'm telling you right now, it's not even one of the most haunted places in Indiana. So, but just because it was featured in Ghost Adventures, it's going to be deemed one of the most haunted places in America when they caught a little bit of evidence? No. I can only go by my personal experiences. And my personal experience was, it was dead. It was just being in a dark old house. I mean, I couldn't even let my imagination take over. So take that for what it's worth. Let me know what you think. Be sure to leave me a comment on the YouTube channel at philsams.com on the show note page for this particular episode. Just let me know what you think. Do you think these paranormal shows are full of shit and making or overblowing their evidence? I don't want to say making up their evidence because that would be wrong, but who are they? I mean, for that place to be so freaking dead and they are just overrun with activity on their investigations, something's up. Something is really up. And we, as paranormal investigators, have to figure it out. So I don't know. You let me know. Tell me what you think about these celebrity type spots that these shows have done. Do you think maybe they're just in it for the money at this point? Because I find it funny, you don't need a lot of stuff at a haunted location, but yet most of the places I've been to that are well known as hot spots, there's always stuff there. Like they decorate. Like in the basement of Thornhaven, they have a gurney. What the hell's the point of having a freaking gurney in the basement? Are you trying to scare people? Basically, all you're doing is filling a room with useless crap, but you're playing on their psyche of, ooh, that's a gurney. Dead bodies have been placed on there. So the mind starts playing tricks at that point. Your mind will tell you, ooh, that had dead bodies. So there must be kind of activity. So, and you're going to start reaching. You're going to maybe start hearing some weird sounds. Maybe start even thinking that you're hearing whispers in your ear. No, they're just building the propaganda of that their place being haunted. It's not. Let your haunted house or haunted location stand on its own merit. You don't need all that extra crap laying around to make it more spooky. If it's got legitimate activity, it's going to be spooky enough as it is. You don't need all that extra BS. I know, this did kind of turn into me shitting on it, didn't it? I don't know. I mean, it needs further investigation. I mean, I'm not ready to throw the towel in completely on Thornhaven Manor. It's a great location. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, I imagine in its day, it was an absolute beautiful home. But being paranormal? Maybe. But I don't know. Maybe I'll go back. Maybe I won't. If I don't go back, I'm not heartbroken. Honestly, I'm not. Because I think there are much better locations to investigate, really. I just want a place that really stands out. I want a place that will really make me crap my pants. I want a full body apparition to basically sit down beside me and say, what the hell are you doing? Am I going to get it? Probably not. But I'd take just being spooked out or being scared. A loud bang or a whisper in my ear. I'd take something. But just nothingness is kind of boring. It sucks. And basically what my investigation of Thornhaven turned into is me just trying to have fun. Trying to make the most of the evening. I mean, once I realized I wasn't going to get much just for the noise contamination factor and the house wasn't giving us anything, I started having a little fun with it. Screw it. I'm going to at least entertain myself. So that's my thoughts on Thornhaven. Be sure to check out the YouTube channel. I will post some videos of... Oh, I almost forgot. We even did do a nice little piece of debunking at that. I can't say I did. My girlfriend did an awesome job of debunking in the room off to the side of the kitchen, and it's how you get to the basement. They have a table with, and then they have other things in the room, but inside on that table, they have one of these motion activated dolls. And as we, I thought the evening was going to really start. I thought this place was, when we first got there and we were setting up, I thought it was going to be a hotbed of activity, because as we were somebody was setting up a stationary camera in that room in the corner. There's two people in there, and I was in the kitchen to where I could see what they were doing because I was setting up a camera in that location. I heard them say, "Oh my God, that just went off," and I heard the doll go off, And as soon as I heard it, I looked. I turned around and gazed into the room. And I said, "Did that dog just go off?" And they said, "Yeah, it went off." So I was like, "Was anybody standing next to it? Did you bump the table or something?" She goes, "No, they were putting the camera up. I was watching them put the camera up and it just went off." I'm like, "Cool. It's starting. This is what I want. I want activity." So my investigation led to that room later on in the evening. Me, my girlfriend, and we were doing a session. And, I even kind of went to touch it, to try to make it go off, because I was explaining to her what it was, because she wasn't there at that particular time in the room. She was in a different room when it went off. So I was telling her what happened, and I couldn't make it go off, even putting my hand up on it and touching it. I was like, okay, so I kind of went to the other corner back by the camera. And, I was asking questions, looking around, I had a flashlight looking around, and it went off. I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. So I, directed the questions to trying to get them to do it again, that kind of thing. And long story short, it was real sporadic, and I still couldn't get it to go off by me touching it. And then it started going off again, when I stopped trying. I was like, okay, this is getting kind of weird. But she found out it's light sensitive. You shine a flashlight on it, and then you take the flashlight away, it goes off. It's not necessarily has anything to do with proximity of somebody being to it or motion. It's light sensitive. So you shine a flashlight on that, or your flashlight kind of pans past it, it's going to cause it to go off. And you're going to think there's a spirit in the room with you screwing around with it. So that was a nice piece of debunking on her part. Good job. But the sad thing is, when debunking something like that is the highlight of your evening, it was a crappy investigation, and the ghost haunting levels of that location might be a little bit lower than what they claim it is. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this podcast. Now, don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, head on over to Ghost in the Night and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to hit the bell. That way you get notified whenever we post a video. You'll be notified. You can watch it. Be sure to leave a comment, subscribe to it, all that happy stuff. Also, follow us on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @night_ghost. And if you want to be on the podcast and share your paranormal encounters, be sure to go to philsams.com. You can go to the contact us page, get a hold of me there, reach out on Twitter, or send me an email at ghostinthenightpodcast@gmail.com. Let me hear your story. I'll get with you. We'll kind of talk about it, and maybe I'll let you share it on the podcast. That is ideally what I want this podcast to be, is people sharing their encounters with the spirit world, or an encounter when they've been scared out of their mind, or something has happened they just can't explain. That's what I want. What do I have coming up investigation wise? We're heading back to Ross Opera House. Now, if you've listened to the podcast, which I hope you have been, or you've watched the YouTube channel, I've went there once before, had a really good time, caught some great evidence, I think, of some unexplainable or things that I couldn't explain. Had a picture of what appeared to be a shadow figure. So I'm going to focus my investigation on either confirming that, debunking it, or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I'm going to try to replicate it. We had some nice responses on the spirit box, a few EVPs. So I'm really looking forward to heading back and doing part 2 of the investigation there. Hopefully we'll be able to get a few more answers, because that place had some pretty good activity that I couldn't outright explain. So I want to hit that again, and I'm going back sometime the first week of December, somewhere in that range, I believe at this point. I think December 8th I'll be there. So be on the lookout for the videos for that. And I will talk about an upcoming podcast. I also have a few guests scheduled to be on the podcast coming up. So definitely be on the lookout. Go ahead and subscribe. However you take in a podcast, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or Spotify, whatever, be sure to subscribe so you know when we update our page. Generally, the podcast comes out on Tuesdays. I think that's going to be it. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment. Do you think that am I wasting my time with hitting some of these bigger locations that have a little bit more publicity? What do you think? Do you think they're blowing them up and making them more than what they really are? Oh, and you know what? Speaking of the paranormal shows, I'm going to do a video. I mean, I've watched Ghost Adventures. I watched Ghost Hunters when it was on. I mean, I actually like Ghost Hunters because they weren't so sensationalized, I think. I mean, there was times when they didn't find crap in an investigation. Generally they had 2 investigations per episode, and there's investigations, they didn't find nothing. To where, Ghost Adventures, basically, they could go to the bathroom at Wendy's, they could probably find some evidence. So, so what I wanted to do, those are the 2 that I've watched. I've watched a few others, Kindred Spirits. I'm actually, Haunted Live with the Tennessee Ray Chasers. And I kind of like the concept of the live ghost hunt. Now, I saw parts of Ghost Adventures live hunt from his haunted museum. I will probably talk about that at some point because I think Ghost Adventures has officially jumped the freaking shark. And I will talk about that in an upcoming episode, or at least in a video series probably. But because I think live investigations are really telling. You don't always get editing plays a role in these ghost hunting shows. And with a live investigation, you know what? You get what you get. So I like Haunted Live to a certain extent. It's interesting. They don't really get a lot. You don't get a lot with a live because you don't have time to sit in the cutting room floor and move things around and hype it up and enhance things all that much. But there's one that I want to talk about, and that's Dead Files. I've seen part of one episode in my entire life, but I've heard some interesting things about it through people talking about it. So I think I'm going to sit down and do a binge Saturday or Sunday or whatever, and just binge it for the whole day. And I might even video it and give my opinion and see what it's like. But from what I've heard about it, I'm probably going to shit on it pretty bad. So that's going to wrap up this episode. Don't forget, follow us on Twitter at @night_ghost. We also have an Instagram page at @night_ghost_podcast. And also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Until then, take care.